Hi there, and welcome to Pimp Your Science. Let's talk now about how to live an amazing scientific life. And to avoid any misunderstanding, I'm not going to talk about how to build a scientific career, because that can be quite a bit different presentation. So this is about living a life of a great scientist, and everybody can do it, including you. Consider this presentation as a cookbook and advices I give here as recipes. You may actually think that some are great and maybe some you would skip. However, it doesn't really matter. Just think about what I'm saying and maybe you want to try one. And let's see what happens. So first I will start with the main course, because it's the heaviest meal of all meals. And once you digest the main course, you actually may look at other parts of our cookbook a bit different. Here it is. To live an amazing scientific life, to enjoy science from day to day, to overcome frustrations easily, to be driven by a pure motivation of discovering new things. From the first day in the lab, you should stop planning a scientific career and concentrate and start working on a non-scientific career. In other words, your scientific career should be your plan B. And I know now you think that this doesn't make so much sense, but let me explain. To understand this, we should first analyze the academic career path. So after finishing the undergrad studies, you will get enrolled in a PhD program that can last anything from 4 to 6 years, and after that you will start collecting some experience as a postdoc. This position as a postdoc is very interesting because it can be anything from 0 to 10 years, and it seems that the number of people spending postdoc is increasing with time. Anyway, after having a successful postdoc experience collected, let's call it like this, you will get an assistant professorship position, a first group leader position that will be usually appointed for 6 years, after which you will be evaluated, and if you were good, you will get a tenure professorship position. A first stable position in academia that will allow you, at least in theory, to tackle some very important questions without worrying about getting salary, grants, and stuff like that. Even if your research is kind of challenging the thoughts in the present field. Anyhow, so this is how it looks like, and let's look at some scary statistics. This is now collected only in US. So out of all people that start their PhD, 70% do not continue as postdocs. So 2/3 drop out, while 1/3 continue doing postdoc. So of all postdocs, now 85% drop out, meaning that only 15% of all postdocs are getting assistant professor positions at various universities. And now, after 6 years of being at assistant professor level, only 50% of all get tenure professorship. So, if you got a tenure professorship, that means that you belong to 2% of all PhD students, and you are in average 40 years. This is, as I said, and it's written here, average for US, and I'm afraid that in other countries, or let's say of Europe, this statistic is even a bit more scarier, because from at least my experience, there are not as much postdocs in US. In addition, 40 years is just an average, and I know personally people that got tenure with at 35. So that means that there are 45-year-old assistant professors still waiting to be tenured. Okay, well, there is nothing wrong in that, and maybe somebody can look, wow, having a stable position at 40 or 45 is great. If you don't, that's another question. The thing is, I can only imagine that if you don't get tenured and you are past 40 or 45, it's just like being dropped in a lion's cage. And this is exactly because academia made an expert out of you. An expert in confocal microscopy that knows to slice mice brains, stain them, and analyze the results, get some conclusions out of it. But guess what? this kind of a skill is not asked for in non-academic world. Actually, there are not so many positions even in pharma and biotech company that require this kind of type of skills or any other academic relevant. What this forces you to do is to plan your research in that way to satisfy needs for your career advancement. So from the position from the PhD position to a postdoc position, you may actually be forced by this scary statistic to think about experiments and questions that satisfy your supervisor committee, board members, grant members, and whatever. So you may actually never have chance to do what you actually wanted to do when you were undergrad student. And this is exactly the behavior and the thinking that will lead you to be eliminated, to be a part of 98% of dropouts. And hence, you have to do something about it. One thing I recommend to do is, while you're doing your PhD or your postdoc, wherever you are now in your career, is to start building new skills. These new skills will prepare you for non-academic career, non-academic life. If from whatever reason you decide to leave academia, you will be a superhero in your new job. You will have needed skills, needed motivation, needed knowledge. This will make that should be your plan A, because if you have that plan, then you will be also strong. And being strong means that you at your current job, which is in academia, will do your best. You would not care anymore about committees, about papers or grants or whatever. You will just think about pure science and will become a super scientist. And this is exactly where you want to be. Being a super scientist will also or may also lead you to a tenure professorship. However, if not, another great adventure is waiting there and you are ready. I really hope that this logic was clear and understandable for everybody and will motivate you to start working on your new skills apart from your lab experience. And here are some practical examples of what you can actually do. For example, you can polish or work on your soft skills, like presentation skills or team and project management skills. Being Pure Science are going to give you quite a bit of know-how, but you can also finish some certified courses to can show it in your CV. You can also go and attend some further education courses that are organized at your campus. Many universities have discounts or even free courses for their grad students and postdocs. Also, you can only go and attend an online course in MBA, programming, designing, education, anything that interests you. And not only that you can maybe use these skills in your daily job, for example, a project management skill you will learn in MBA, but you may also use your experience in promoting your, let's say, educational course and stuff like that. You can also join in an organization or build one like Pure Science, and by that you can show your strengths which are not part of your lab curriculum. And finally, you can do internships or apprenticeships in companies. And don't be afraid, companies of the 21st century are motivated to hire a mobile working force that can work from laptops, from homes. And if a PhD students apply for a position like that, they will accept you and you will build upon your skills and you will become just great and strong. Okay, I hope that you survived the main dish because we are going now to the side dishes. First advice I can tell you is be bold. Be courageous to follow your ideas and to follow your dream. I heard so many times from senior scientists that going out with provocative, controversial new ideas is maybe not the best thing for your science or your career if you are a young scientist. However, I would dismiss all of that because 98% of scientists will be dropouts at some point. So if you don't do it now and you don't put your idea now out, who knows, in 2 years you are maybe not going to do science and you are not having a chance to put it there out anymore. So be now yourself your dream. So when talking about being a bold person, I cannot not mention Professor Dan Shechtman, who discovered quasi-crystals and won a Nobel Prize for Chemistry in 2012. While many of you may heard about his name because he won a Nobel Prize, what you did not probably know is the following story. So when Danny discovered quasi-crystal and presented it on a scientific meeting, one person from the audience, and that one person was a 2 times Nobel Prize winning scientist, said in these words: Danny Shechtman is talking nonsense. There are no quasi-crystal, just quasi-scientists. On a scientific meeting in front of everybody. Even Dan's PI at that time said to Danny, Danny, you're a disgrace to my group and I don't want to work with you. So what Danny did? He fought for his idea and his discovery. He changed his PI and in 2012 for his fight got a Nobel Prize. Since we are talking about Nobel Prize, let me share with you another piece of advice, and that is, don't chase rewards and recognitions. Of course it's nice to have a Nobel Prize or any other prize or award in your CV, but you should not chase these. These are just the prizes and recognition that coming from other scientists and other people. And you may actually do great job that is actually ahead of your time and people don't really recognize it. Not because they're biased toward you, but because it just is in front of their time. Also, the rewards are given not always for achievements, because Obama got a Nobel Prize for things that he did not do yet, but he will do in future, or that was the hope. Bottom line, the awards come from other people and hence may not have a universal value. What you should actually do is to start chasing your childhood dream. And this is to understand the laws of nature that rule our world, or to make our world a better place to live. And that has a universal value. And here is an example of a man that you probably know only if you study physics and you know that magnetic field is measured in Teslas. This man, for his life, earned not many, if any, award. But he was the inventor of alternative current and wireless communication, without which our world, as we know it today, would not exist. He chased his childhood dream and not rewards. And in the words of somebody else, with credit or without, Tesla changed the face of the planet in ways that perhaps no man ever has. And isn't that great? Okay, another piece of advice would be to work smart and think big. I know it's easy to say, and many people say this, but nobody actually is showing you or telling you what to do, so I'm going to just do this now. Most of you know from physiology and the neuroscience, at least from the undergraduate level, that our left brain hemisphere is responsible for the logical thinking or analytic thinking, for dealing with numbers, control, and for doing science. While our right brain hemisphere is reserved for creative stuff, for poetry, art, whatever, freedom, love, and all this colorful and vivid part of life. Anyway, what I will propose now here is a bit different, and that is, when you do research in the lab, you should do it with your left brain hemisphere. So, making experiments, making controls, planning, interpreting results, and stuff like that. However, when you do science, I suggest that you do it with your right brain. And doing science can be then much more fun than you ever thought. And here is an example of how to do science with your right hemisphere. So I hope that most of you know about Lord Kelvin that calculated the thermodynamic lowest temperature, which we call the absolute zero. And here I also present a slide which shows the historical battle to reach this lowest temperature over time. And when I was in a high school, I was kind of deeply interested in this problematic. I was actually fascinated by the existence of the lowest temperature. So I asked my physics teacher once, so why are these scientists always chasing to reach the absolute zero? Why nobody goes below it? Yeah, and my physics teacher, you can imagine, just look at me and show me with his finger to go back to my seat. And what I was actually doing that as a kid was actually exercising my right brain hemisphere. It's kind of writing a poem in which the question, why not going below absolute zero, is absolutely logical. Anyway, it stayed illogical for a while, in my head at least, until a few months back, where I actually discovered a paper published in Science where the group showed that a quantum gas goes below absolute zero. And here it is. This group thought about science with the right hemisphere, did experiments with the left hemisphere, and got a great result and great finding. Thinking out of the box is a phrase that is so powerful, but in the same time a phrase completely lost its meaning because it seems that nowadays everybody actually thinks out of the box. However, when you ask people how did they realize on the first place they're thinking in the box, or what did they do to start thinking out of the box, mostly you don't have a real answer. So let me try to give you some tips of how I imagine that one can start thinking out of the box. The first thing you can do is challenge well-accepted facts. I will give you an example that was used in philosophy to explain how we perceive reality and is based on a very simple story of a chicken and a farmer. So the story here is that you are a chicken born on a farm and you assume that all intentions of the farmer towards you are only the best one. So with time you observe that farmer comes every day to give you water, to clean your cage, to give you food. He does everything to comfort you. So with time you conclude that his intentions are only the best one and that he thinks only about your well-being. And you can actually predict things and say, tomorrow the farmer will bring me water, and the farmer comes tomorrow and brings you water. So with every day you are more and more confident that your assumption is actually a fact. However, one day the farmer comes, takes you for the neck, and game over. Of course, in that minute, you understand or you realize that the farmer's intentions are not your well-being, but his well-being. And this is exactly my point. If you start from the opposite view in your research, you may actually start thinking outside of the box. I taped an example, a real example in life sciences that I named the airbag problem of Alzheimer's research, where I argued that we can look at the problem of amyloid deposition called the plaques in the brain, which everybody thinks are toxic, as protective, and the whole picture will fit again. And if you want to hear a bit more about this mind exercise, you can find this video on YouTube. The second thing you can do is start thinking cross-disciplinary. Expand your limits and your borders. You can do that, of course, by reading an exciting book and getting ideas from it. You can also talk with your friends, which are close or not so close to your research. But one of the very interesting or nice ways I like to do it is to watch TED Talks. TED Talks are freely available online and are given by very inspiring people that cover the whole existence of humans. Hence, you can find various topics. And these topics may actually provoke you to think differently about your own research. And when this is done and you are provoked to think differently, you're in a good way to start thinking outside of your box. Finally, you can share your ideas and you will get a feedback. You can share your experiments or findings and you will get feedback. The more feedback you're getting, the more chances are there that there are also other views which may not align with you, which would mean that if you start considering them, you are starting thinking outside of the box. Of course, you may now think, and this is a scientific paranoia a bit, that if you share your ideas or your experiments, you're going to be scooped. However, risk of being scooped in the life science of 21st century is way outweighed by the risk of being helped. The projects that questions of 21st century life science are complex, are multidisciplinary, so no single group can go just and repeat that one experiment and publish in Nature and Science anymore. So go there, share your ideas, use your networks, use the web platforms. Go there and you will start getting not only inspiring but also quite provoking questions that you will start thinking about it. And you will by that start thinking out of your box. One of my favorite side dishes is teamwork. So make yourself a team or be a part of one. Working in a team does not only make you more efficient and productive, but also can be really fun if the team is functional. When we in life science think about teams, we usually think about a group of people working for a professor or a group leader on a specific project or related projects and tasks. However, teams can consist of many teams, like in CERN Particle Collider in Geneva, Switzerland, where many teams work as a team to answer different scientific questions and work on a different scientific project. Also, a team can be an invisible team. For example, you all heard about Diana Niad, a female swimmer that in her 63rd year of life swam from Cuba to Florida alone. Guess what? She was not alone. She was with her team. And the first thing she said when she was on the shore of Florida was, I want to thank my team. So it's of course her hard work, of course she did it, but without her team, she would be nowhere, probably swimming in circles. Teams can also operate globally. There is no need anymore to work in a team being constrained by four walls of your institute or of your university. You can be a part of a global team that operates in many countries. One example of these teams is a Pint of Science team that operates in 6 countries in more than 20 cities with the aim to organize a single event in all these cities in the same time and bring science to people in a pub or a restaurant. And that's a great global team. Also, finally, the team can be also open access and everybody can join. And here I put a picture of red balloons just to illustrate how these teams actually may functionally operate on an example of MIT team that could recruit 200,000 people all over United States to allocate 10 balloons which were hidden somewhere on the territory of US. The task seemed impossible, but these 200 motivated researchers found the 10 hidden balloons in nothing more or less than 8 hours. So imagine the possibilities. Finally, some desserts. First of which is do sports. Science is a stressful business, and by doing sports, either an easy exercise every day in the morning or in the evening or a bit more, few days a week or something like that, will build your resistance to stress, will build your resources to fight that stress. Also, take vacation. We all need time to relax, to think about different things. And there is this saying that the most important discoveries are actually made when you were actually not thinking about it. Spend time with your family, with your friends. Go and just do something crazy that will inspire you once you're back in the lab. Finally, have lazy Sundays. Whoever did research knows that sometimes your brain just gets stuck. Your experiments or projects are just stuck and you cannot move forward. If you have lazy Sundays, you will have time to relax and rest your brain so you can start on Mondays fresh with maybe some new ideas and new views on the old problem. If you don't do that, you can actually end up just going into circles and getting deeper and deeper in this negative feedback loop. So have time for yourself, have times for your friends and family, have time for doing crazy things. That will all help your science. No cookbook would be complete without a secret recipe of your grandma. Here I present a secret recipe of my grandpa. And this is, don't worry about how other people are doing science. Don't look at their way. You should be the change you want to see in this world. So live your dream. My final piece of advice is just continue being a kid. It's a lot of fun. With one difference, you're now paid for it. Nice, isn't it?